1408 is a 2007 film based on a Stephen King short story. Back in the late 2000s, I would often see it playing on one of the movie channels on TV. I remember watching it at least a handful of times. I haven't thought about it until late 2022, and upon rewatching it, I remembered all the things that I liked about it. This is easily in my top 3 movies, but without further ado, let's get into the video. 1408 starts off with our protagonist, Mike Enslin, looking for an inn. He is a writer seeking out haunted locations to document in his books. Upon entering the inn, he introduces himself to the man working the front desk, who excitedly calls his wife over. Mike asks for the room key, but they would rather tell him the morbid history of the building. Mike then opts for a room on the top floor, as they are the most haunted. Next we see Mike settling into the room, looking bored as he downs a shot of alcohol. He wanders the room before going to bed. We then see him taking voice memos, embellishing how scary his overnight stay really was. Now, Mike is at a book signing event, and when asked about ghosts, he implies he doesn't believe in them as he has not found any proof, even with his paranormal tracing gear. He states how awfully convenient they are for desperate hotels before going back into book signing. The last woman to have her book signed is a fan of Mike, and presents one of his earlier, more light-hearted books. She talks about the good qualities of the book before asking if the father-son relationship in his book was true. Mike, visibly uneased by this, simply answers no. In the next scene, Mike arrives at a beach to go surfing. While on the water, he is thrashed by a wave before waking up ashore, coughing up water. Mike then picks up his mail to check at a restaurant. Here, he finds a postcard from the Dolphin Hotel with the phrase, "Don't enter 1408, written on the back. Cut to Mike in his apartment, trying and failing to book 1408. The man on the phone tells him it's unavailable multiple times before hanging up on him. Now, Mike is researching the grisly history of the Dolphin Hotel that dates back to 1912. On the phone, Mike is told of a federal law stating if the room is empty, they must let him stay there or risk a lawsuit. Once the lawyer leaves the room, Sam, who's Mike's friend, asks if it is a wise idea to return to New York after all that happened. Mike shrugs it off and says it would make a good closing chapter to his book. And when asked if he would stop by to see Lily, he says no. Next, Mike is checking into the Dolphin, when the desk clerk is notified to alert management of his arrival. Soon after, we meet Olin, the owner of the hotel, who tries to persuade Mike not to stay in 1408, insisting to upgrade his room before inviting Mike to his office. Olin tries his best to dissuade Mike from going into 1408, telling him there had been 56 deaths that occurred in the room. Mike, flabbergasted, is then bribed with a folder documenting every case and an $800 bottle of alcohol. But much to the dismay of Olin, he still intends to stay. Olin gives Mike the bottle and folder anyway, before revealing that he's actually heard of Mike, bringing up his first book, The Long Road Home, the same one that the fan from earlier had signed. He also mentions the father, and once again, Mike is made uncomfortable by this. Mike then states he is not scared due to his disbelief in ghosts. Olin, in one last attempt from the elevator, pleads Mike not to stay before leaving to the first floor. Mike, on his way to the room, goes through the pictures of the horrible events that took place in 1408, while an elevator in front of him opens for seemingly no reason. He continues and sees a mother and her baby enter the room next to his. Upon entering 1408, he seems disappointed, but this will not last. While hanging out a window, taking a voice memo, he is scared by the radio, which starts playing "We've Only Just Begun" by the Carpenters. It fits perfectly and is very off-putting. Mike also discovers chocolates on his pillow that weren't there before, and a fold in the bathroom tissue. This causes Mike to believe that there must be someone in the room playing a trick, but he discovers nobody after trying to debunk the phenomenon. Soon after, Mike calls room service, as his room has been stuck on 80 degrees, and he is getting sick of it. After another voice recording, Mike takes a blacklight to survey the room, revealing splatters of the room's past victims. Appearing shook, he is then scared by a knock at the door. The repairman, refusing even to enter the room, talks Mike through the process of correcting the thermostat before leaving abruptly. Mike pours a drink and sits on the bed. Playing the same song and setting itself to a timer of 60 minutes. It's worth mentioning that earlier in the film, Olin stated no one lasts more than an hour in 1408. Mike cites this and states it as being very effective. Mike's ears start to ring as if he's being deafened. He hangs out the window, but upon re-entering the room, he has his hand crushed by the window, and to make matters worse, he is scalded by hot water while cleaning his wound. The phone rings, and Mike says he wants to check out in a very aggressive manner. He is hung up on while waiting to be transferred to Olin. He tries to leave, but the key is taken through the keyhole, and the doorknob comes clean off. This is when Mike realizes he is trapped. In an attempt to get help, Mike returns to the window. When trying to communicate with a man in a neighboring building, he realizes it is more of a dark reflection of himself, before being threatened by a hammer-wielding ghost. A now frightened Mike throws a lamp out the window, only to have it disappear on its way down. Then Mike hears his deceased daughter, Katie. Mike thinks he is just hallucinating, when suddenly the TV plays home video of him and his family. It shuts off, and we see a ghostly man and woman jump out of separate windows. Mike bangs on the wall of the woman with the baby for help, before the baby cry becomes ear-splitting for a moment. Then, Mike sees his dad, who warns him that the life he lives will only bring him loneliness and misery. In 11 chilling words. As you are, I was. As I am, you will be. While Mike speculates whether or not he is dreaming, black ooze begins to leak out of big cracks in the wall. Mike then decides to climb along the outside ledge to the next room. When he reaches where the window should be, he sees that there are no windows, no other rooms, nothing. He is then forced to climb back to his room, where he is scared at the window by the same waitress who plummets out the window again, as if in a loop. Mike crawls back in, and the window shuts. Now the hotel floors show his room is the only one there. And the windows that once looked over the busy streets of New York showed nothing but brick. And the message, "Burn me alive," is scratched on one. Mike plays back his voice memos and is distraught to hear himself say, "The room has no windows," when in fact he never said that. In the room, Mike sees a scene of himself and Lily. She is crying over Katie's illness, while Mike is more sullen, as he denounces God with this statement. What kind of God would do this to a little girl? He then sees Katie in a hospital bed before the lights go out. Mike finds the light switch and notices the temperature is dropping. He then goes to his laptop to call Lily, and luckily she answers. When trying to get help, the fire sprinklers activate and shut off his laptop. Mike breaks it and notices the vent before climbing in. He is then chased by a dusty corpse back to his room. Mike goes for a drink and instead sees Olin, who states that people believe in ghosts not for fun, but for the prospect of something after death. Mike lashes out, destroying the fridge like a madman. We're then shown another heart-wrenching scene with Lily and Katie, followed by a scene of Mike being wrathful to Lily after Katie's passing. Mike receives a shirt from a fax machine, and the room is frozen. While by the fireside, Mike hears Lily on the call from earlier, who reveals police are in 1408 and the room is empty. Lily tells him she can be there in 15 minutes, but Mike knows this isn't enough time, as indicated by the 14 minutes remaining on the clock. This is when an evil version of Mike convinces Lily to come to the room, when suddenly the room explodes into a storm, as if Mike is adrift at sea. He fights to the surface and is all of a sudden back on shore where he was in the beginning of the film. But this time, he wakes up in the hospital and sees Lily. Cut to them having dinner at a restaurant. Mike sees a familiar waitress and recounts his experience seeing Katie. Mike goes to the library and sees articles about the dolphin that have been changed to not include the Dolphin Hotel at all. Mike writes about his experience and goes to the post office, where the cracks in the facade start to show, and Mike is sent back to the room he never left, which causes him to flip out. A door appears, and then we get another scene with Katie. The radio starts playing, and she turns to ash in his arms. Mike lashes out as the clock nears 0, and when it does, he is then brought back to the beginning of his 60-minute loop, as if none of it happened at all. The clock restarts its timer, and the phone rings. He is offered a way out, but refuses to go out their way. Mike plans to save Lily from entering 1408 by burning down the room. It works, and Mike is saved by firefighters. After healing, Mike is shown moving in with Lily, and that's the end of the movie. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much, actually, because this video, I wanted it to be perfect. It took a while to make, and I've wanted to make it really since I made the Candyman video, so thank you.